Okay, back at Sweetwater for another training run. This is a course by Fred, so it's a middle instead of a classic, which means shorter legs and direction changes and fast thinking. So my idea this time was to pick up the pace, and I made some mistakes, so you get to see those as we go along. Yeah, it's still green, still hot, very wet. Water dripping off the camera. So I go down and then I work my way up the side of this hill. Yeah. One thing I had a lot of trouble with on this particular training run was all the fallen trees. These legs, I seem to get myself in a lot of trouble. So yeah, over the top of the spur, then down the hill to another one of those ubiquitous dot knolls. And just tape, no controls. Here's your leg 2. And you'll notice there's another dot knoll right on the edge of the circle. And I could not see that, of course, while I was out there. And the description, since it's outside the circle, the description doesn't have a which field. Not that I was really looking at the descriptions anyway. So this would be your first mistake, although it's a pretty small mistake. It didn't slow me down much. I got to that first dot knoll and thought, okay, where's the tape? Where's the tape? Where's the tape? No tape. So I just go on. And then when I went on, I immediately saw the tape for the actual control. Oh well. All right, here's your third leg. Get your 15 seconds to look at it first. You notice right away there's a road backing it up. So, you can't go too far. Doing okay coming across here. Across that trail again. This is an updated map from the last time, so it's got the trail on it. I may have the camera pointing down a little low this time. Sorry about that. You're getting a good view of the ground. Crossing these re-entrants, and they're not very obvious. Now I can see the road over there. So, yeah, oh, yeah. I did drift too far to the north. More big logs to have to go around. I get down into the re-entrant and no tape. Yep, well, look around for a few seconds, not too long, and then just keep on going. Here's your leg number 4. It's not that steep up here. You should be able to run this pretty quickly. Like I said, I'm trying to pick up the pace here and go a little faster. And for these first few controls, that was working okay. I had some times in the green, you can define your speed ranges with the control app, and it'll show up on the watch as I'm in the green, or I'm in the yellow, or I'm in the red or orange, which is slow. I was doing pretty good keeping things in the green, even though I was trying to climb through all these dead trees that kept getting in my way. But I did drift off to the side again. I don't know why I'm doing that. That I'm not keeping my concentration. Yeah, I'm way off to the side here. It didn't make any sense to do that because there's not enough climb here to avoid going around the tops of those hills. But I corrected down into this very vague, shallow re-entrant into the control. And here's your number 5. I'm still moving pretty good here on this leg. There's nothing to stop you on this one. You don't want to go too far because there's houses over on that side that are not mapped. So once again, I don't have a fancy route here. I'm just going straight line as much as possible. Climbing up and over this spur. Already having to wipe the sweat out of my eyes. Although this was very early in the morning. It's hot and like 100% humidity. Not the best situation. Across the road. Across the power line. Back into the woods. And you know, a good course setter like Fred is will always design these legs so that they cross these linear features at right angles. So you can't really use the road, can't use the power line. Counting reentrance as I go down. I'm a little high. I managed to come right down to it. Okay. Continuing on. This is a more complicated leg. We're over here in this area, which has a lot of spurs pointing in different directions and a couple saddles and so on and so forth. So that is the plan, is to cross, go up the reentrant and over the saddle. Once you get over the saddle, there's just that huge reentrant. We simplify that reentrant to the point where you're just going to go down the reentrant to the bottom and look for the small spur off to the side. Always a good idea to simplify as much as possible. So here we're going over the saddle, going down the other side, and I really can't go wrong here because as long as I, go over the correct saddle, once you start down, all the reentrants converge together. More trees to have to navigate over. Looking then for that shallow reentrant and the one contour spur. There we go. Okay. Now this leg, 5-meter contours. So I've come down pretty far. We've got to go back up. It looks pretty straightforward. Over the next spur, my plan is just to go up that reentrant and branch off into the very small reentrant at the correct time. You can actually see those ruins over there. Up the reentrant, and I passed right over the tiny one that the control was in, that one right there. I should have gone up that one, but I didn't. So I had to turn and come back to the left. This is your first small mistake. But I am, trying to run faster, like I said, which is not always a good idea. Now this one probably has the biggest decision in the entire course. Do I go high or do I go low? I elected to go high. If you go low, then you've got to do either some steep contouring or have some extra climb. 3 or 4 contours at least, maybe more. So I elected to go high, which means I'm heading up for that field. Now the GPS track somehow got off here. I don't know, sometimes it does that. So I'm coming out right at the field and going right down the middle of it on that trail, although the GPS track shows me still on the edge of the woods over there. There are a lot of reentrants that converge at the end of this field, so you've got to be sure you go down the right one. And I did all that. I got up there, I crossed the top of the hill, I went down, immediately saw the small reentrance. I went down the correct small reentrant, which should have led me right into the control, which is where I made my mistake. Yeah, if I had just looked to the left like I did right then, I would have seen it up there. But I didn't see it. I went right past it and continued down. So now I'm losing all the altitude that I wanted to avoid making this climb by going high. So, yeah, that was a total waste. I had to go back up this steep hill, very steep, to the control. There's the first big mistake of the day. Not that I lost all that much time, but yeah, the average for that leg was pretty bad. But it's the climb that gets you, having to do that unnecessary climb. And you're not done with the climb. Look at this leg. I have to go up, back up, across that hill and field. Yeah, very slow going up this hill. I'm trudging. You can see from my shadow, wiping the sweat off, taking the opportunity to squeeze out the sweatband. Yeah, so I know it's hard to find this stuff right on the inside of the field. You can't see it from the field, so you've got to go into the woods. As soon as you go in the woods, it opens up. You should be able to see things. I went right where it should be, and it's not there. Not there, not there. Where is it? I wander around a bit. I see in the distance, oh, there's a fence post over there. So I go to that fence post, no tape. Finally, I find the tape, but it's way further down in the reentrant than it should be. Yeah, that could be a mapping problem. Here's your long leg of the day. It looks complicated, doesn't it? But we're going to simplify the first half. I'm just angling down this long spur with all the reentrants crossing it. I don't care where I am. As long as I've got the general direction correct, I'm just moving as quickly as I can, avoiding the fallen trees. Matter of fact, I don't know where I am at this point. I crossed this big reentrant, but I didn't take the time to figure out which reentrant this was. Is this the big one or the small one? It doesn't matter. I'm just going as quickly as I can, trying to avoid any unnecessary climb, heading in this general direction. Knowing that when I get down to the bottom or start up the other side, I can recognize where I am. And that's what happens. When I get to the bottom, I see marsh. Okay, that's pretty obvious. There's marsh right there on the map. So I cross over and start up. Now I know where I am. And the plan is to go angle up and cross on the tops of these reentrants. So we're going to get the climb out of the way early, but we're not going to go all the way to the top of that hill. That would be an unnecessary climb. We're going to cut across the tops of these reentrants. avoid the up and down of crossing them. I'll go across this, the one with the double, the reentrant junction. I go across there, across the next spur, across the next one, right at the very top of it. Now there's no need to go to the top of the hill. We're just going to angle over. And there's more than one spur coming down off the end of this big spur. Notice how it splits. As long as we take the left-hand one, the northern one, we're good. And that's a saddle down there. You can see the saddle, form line saddle. Not terribly obvious, but it's there. But there's no tape. I looked around for it, could find nothing. So hey, let's go on. Now this next leg is where I really made some errors. It looks easy enough. I'm just going to contour along and count 2 big reentrants. And then I should be in the gully, junction, and over. Yeah. I wasn't going to fool with the trail. What happened was that I started to drift down. In other words, falling down the hill, which is a common problem when contouring along the side of a big hill. The tendency is to drift down, and that's what I did. I never even saw the trail over there. But I drifted down. I thought I was much higher. I got into the rootstocks, and I think, well, I should go back up a little. But the rootstocks, I kept having to cross them, which is kind of tiring for an old man. I couldn't seem to get out of them. There were just more and more and more. It's in a bad situation there. And then I kept drifting down when I should have been trying to recover and go up a little, but there were rootstocks up there too, so yeah. Eventually I got pushed so far down that I ended up down at the big stream down at the bottom. That's totally not what I planned. My glasses fogged up. I couldn't see. Couldn't read the map. Where am I? Which direction am I going? Yeah, we've all been there. I even went in the wrong direction for a second. And then I couldn't figure out, well, which reentrant is this? I lost track. Eventually I figured, well, that's the big one. I can see that's the big one. So I need to go over to the next big one. Which I did, and then finally things started to make sense. There's a big gully. I need to cross over this one, go to the next one. And there's the tape. So, yeah, that was pretty bad. Very slow. And now I still can't read the map because my glasses are all fogged up. And this area down here is even thicker than the stuff I just crossed through. But nothing for it but to go for it. So really it doesn't matter where you cross. You've got to cross somewhere and get through all the fallen trees. Around the green bar if necessary, if possible. which is what I'm trying to do here. And then look for that shallow reentrant on the edge of the big spur. All right. This leg was also slow. I think I was just tired. This is really orange level because you see how close that rootstock is to the trail. That trail is a catching feature. So I should be able just to blast up here and not have any difficulties. I'm drifting off to the side though, and I'm having a hard time getting up this hill. More rootstocks to avoid. I never saw these little rocks. They're hidden very well. And then I was too low, had to go up to it. I was trying to salvage something out of this mess. This leg is, yeah, it looks easy, but the contours are a bit vague up here. Cross the road and up the other side. It's not a very big spur to cross. It's really a huge saddle. Down the other side, not the first reentrant, but the second reentrant. And the dot knoll is right in the bottom of the reentrant. And there's a rootstock just before you get there. Rootstock, dot knoll. So now we're headed back for the finish. This is the trail, the last training run. That trail was not on the map, but this one I have an updated map from Kevin, so yeah, the plan is just to go over to that trail as quickly as possible and run down it to the finish. Yeah, so what happened? I had a slower average time on this training run than on the last one by a couple minutes. Yeah. Why? Well, I started out much faster and then faded after about 6 controls and made a couple of big arrows down there. Yeah, so those all contributed to the slower average time. You know, you get in a comfort zone. I like to keep a pretty steady pace, and that doesn't always work when you try to speed up. Now here's a view, maybe you can see this, of the speed ranges. You notice it's mostly green, but there's a bunch of oranges in my track. This is an example of what control gives you.